Today we're going to smoke the Alec Bradley 1600 Brazilian as part of the Honduran package that I bought a while back. So I can't wait to see how this tastes. As you know, I just don't smoke my cigars. I also tell a story. So today my story is about something I did in the last couple of days that's very special to what I do in my job. Alec Bradley 1600 Brazilian first crop. My last experience with an Alec Bradley, it didn't burn out. It didn't burn pretty well, so I'm not sure what was wrong with that. Maybe it was just one cigar. I've heard a lot of good things about Alec Bradley, so I'm hoping that I'm going to enjoy this one. It smells really good. I would say that the wrapper is medium dark. Smells really good. Smells really good. So let's cut it and see what happens. For those of you that follow me, I'm pretty sure you know that I just don't smoke and review a cigar because that's not what I do. However, I do experience different things when I smoke cigars, so I would like to kind of share that with you. It's a good draw, spicy already. Really good really good cigar. So let's toast it and see what it looks like. I don't know if, I mean, I'm used to toasting it so that at least it'll even out when it burns. Oh, here we go. It's got the spiciness to it. Well, I like it. Very good so far. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about Iwo Jima, or what the Okinawans call Iwoto. Iwoto or Iyoto. Yeah, Iyoto. Anyway, I've had the opportunity to travel with my boss to Iwo Jima recently. But while we were there, also had an opportunity to hike to where the landing happened during the war. For those of you that are history buffs, I'm pretty sure that you know the history and the tradition that went on in Iwo Jima, especially the raising of the flag on top of Mount Suribachi to signify the battle was won by the United States Marines and the Navy corpsmen that's attached to the Marines. Good cigar. So what was the significance of the island of Iwo Jima, Iyoto, to the Marines and the sailors at the time? So back in the World War II, from 19 February to 25 March or 24 March 1945, the U.S. military, specifically the United States Marine Corps, decided to take over the island of Iwo Jima because at the time it would have been a strategic point for resupply of the troops around the Pacific during the war. We wanted to take over the island because of a couple of the airstrips that would have been significantly important to the battle here in the Pacific, specifically for the B-52 bombers, as well as some of our fighter planes that support the B-52 bombers in 1945. Mind you, this was the heat of the battle, so that island was very well fortified. I mean, the Japanese have created a tunnel system and pretty much did all their business underground. So it didn't matter how the bombardment had happened. You gotta remember, back in 1945, back in the World War II, we have proven our air superiority over all of our enemies back in the 1940s during the war. But it didn't matter how much the B-52s bombarded the island. It really didn't make a difference because of the tunnels and all the underground work that the Japanese at that time, called the Imperial Japanese Army, have done. By the time our troops have landed on the island, on the beaches of Iwo Jima, the Japanese were well prepared, so they had the advantage point, or they had the vantage point in hurting our military. Out of about 110,000 Marines, Navy, and Air Force personnel that participated in that battle, there were about 26,000 plus casualties in the American side. I believe about 6,800 were killed in action. There were a few missing, but there was a lot of people on the Imperial Japanese Army side. There were more people that were killed during the battle. At the end of the day, we took over the island, and the purpose of that island campaign was actually questioned by the politicians and some of our military leadership down the road, if it was really as important as it's supposed to be. But I can tell you that it was a strategic point and shows the power and the violence of the war in the Pacific. The Battle of Iwo Jima was one of the bloodiest battles in the Pacific at the time. Being here in Okinawa, I'm surrounded by the United States Marines that are very proud and look back to the history of the war here in the Pacific, and continue to do our bid and our job to make sure that we are prepared for another war. You know, getting to read and look at maps, you didn't really feel like you didn't feel the significance of the battle in Iwo Jima until you step on the island and actually trek the island and go to on top of Mount Suribachi and the beach where the U.S. Armed Forces and the Marines and the Navy have landed. The terrain is very hot, much hotter than here in mainland in Okinawa. You know, we underestimated the distance to where we're supposed to be going, so we left and started to hike, thinking that it would only be a couple of kilometers away. So what we anticipated would be like an hour to and from of a hike turned into, I believe, 3 hours, because the distance and the terrain is much farther and the weather was beating you up. It was really hot. So another mistake is that I wasn't prepared to do the hike. Did not bring any water. I don't think I wore sunscreen, but you know, we made it to the landing beach and saw a few other monuments or dedication to the men that were lost during the war. Can you imagine back in 1945 during the campaign? So the challenges of our military when we finally landed on the beaches of Iwo Jima is that aside from the Japanese expecting us and were have heavily fortified the island with bunkers and machine guns and many other mines and anything that will stop any troops. The actual terrain itself was difficult. As you land on the beaches, there's a gradual dip in which, as you're swimming towards the beach, you're not going to be able to see what's beyond this gradual dip until you get right on it. And the distance from the waterline to the hill, or where it starts to come back up, is a good, I would say, a quarter of a mile. A quarter of a mile uncovered, by the way. So as you land, you're seen by somebody like the fortified bunkers that's on top of the hills that are raining down ammunitions, raining down bullets to our military personnel. It was ugly. And like I said, it didn't matter how much we bombed them at the time before our armed forces landed there. They have created tunnels, kilometers length of tunnels underneath underneath the ground, that those bombs didn't make a difference. It didn't shut anything down. They were ready. They were ready to kill and ready to fight to defend the island. I'm talking about the Imperial Japanese Army at the time. So, as we got to the beach, the sand of the beaches there in Iwo Jima are almost black because of the volcanic activities around the area. So the sand is mixed with lava, so it's black and very soft and very hard to traverse if you're just getting there soaking wet with all your gear. I would assume most of the trucks that got off of the of those transport vehicles got stuck on the sand, obviously, and didn't have any moving forward. And then there were probably mines that were planted on the beach to stop the our military from getting to where they're supposed to be. But with the tenacity of the Marines and the Navy at the time, we were able to take over the island. And like I said, it was a strategic point for the war and resupply of our troops here in the Pacific during the war. That was probably one of the battles in which U.S. Navy corpsmen received the most Medal of Honor. And that is why the island is very important to Navy corpsmen, in which I serve with. About 90% of my people here are corpsmen, and they're very proud of their history and tradition, and very proud and pay homage and very humble to those that fought, especially in the island of Iwo Jima. What a story, right? So, and what a trip. I learned a lot from this trip. I learned a newfound respect for all of the personnel, all the Marines and sailors that fought during that war, and specifically during the war, the Battle of Iwo Jima. Would I have done what our predecessors have done? Yes, absolutely. That is the core value of our military. Honor, courage, and commitment. The fight for freedom. The fight for the security of the whole world. And so I would have fought alongside my brothers and sisters on that battle, and would have done the best I could to move forward, being able to win And that's exactly what we do now. Just getting back to the cigar real quick. Alec Bradley 1600 Brazilian. Really good. I totally forgot about it telling you my story. And it burns really well. And good cigar. I'm glad I got it. And I think along with the Camacho, this is probably one of my favorite out of that whole bundle that I bought from Famous Cigar. Alright, so listen, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please don't forget to hit the like button, share my videos. If you're new to my channel, again, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell so you know every time I upload a video. I try to upload a video at least twice a week on this channel. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the cigar, and I will talk to you later.